I love what you're doing. I think it's so cool. You discovered Tintype. Was this in Austin that you discovered the Tintype?
I knew about it from school, just photo history. I was aware of the process, but not in any detail. The real moment was actually in San Antonio on our first trip. A friend of mine, I'll be eternally grateful to him for this. He handed me a National Geographic, and he'd always be bringing me just interesting things. It's just, hey, look at this strange, character.
Well, Adrian, thank you for showing up and doing this. Yeah, if I get a chance on a random Instagram message.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about your hair. So what's working and what's not working?
I've been just kind of letting it, my hairdresser's just been kind of getting creative with it. It's a bit long right there.
Yeah.
My historical traditional haircut is just pretty long on top. I like a lot of length. Just your traditional short on the sides, short in the back. I do like it when they cut it with scissors and not super short with the clippers. So like a little bit of length, but it's super thick and curly. So it gets kind of clumpy right here.
Yeah.
Odd on this side, but I'm not really I don't style it. I don't put anything in it. I just wake up and go. Yes. I like to just be able to brush it up and over and then just be done with it.
Okay.
It is looking a little quiet.
It looks a little wild. Yeah.
But we've been kind of playing around with it. So I figured go back to maybe my regular haircut.
Is that the image that you have on your Instagram where it's a view? There's I think I saw a photo, or maybe it was on your personal page where you had the shorter haircut.
Probably, yes. Actually, my wife told me to do that, to bring a picture for you, and I forgot.
Yeah, pictures.
Am I stood next to a camera?
Was that?
Am I stood next to a camera in that picture?
I don't remember. Maybe. Because on your Instagram, there's no photos of you. It's just your subjects, right? He's a photographer. But I remember seeing there's an image of you.
Probably on the website. Probably stood next to the big camera.
I think so.
Yeah. Probably had short hair back then.
Should I pull it up?
You could, yeah.
And then we could use that as our go-to reference photo.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What was your website?
Just LumiereTintype.com. And then, yeah.
How do you spell Lumiere?
Lumiere.
Tintype?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't spell right. Lumie. There we go.
R-E. It's French.
I know it's French. But my thumb said it added N.
People do that all the time.
No, it's just
Lumiere. Yeah.
It just happened.
I believe there's a picture of me on there, but I don't actually know.
There you go. Yes, that's who.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a deep part over on this side, and then you just kind of push it all over, and then
kind of short and feathered on that side.
Okay. And then you like these pieces to kind of hang over.
Yeah.
So no connection.
I'm not sure what that means, but no, I don't think so.
So connection or disconnection would be that this hair hangs over and you see it laying on top.
Okay.
Versus it being blended. So yeah, push this over and then it just falls seamlessly.
Think no connection.
Yeah, the disconnection part.
Cool. Kind of like it could be a mohawk on its own.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
That is a little bit long, but I do like a lot of length in there.
Well, let's get the sides figured out because I think that's going to set up how much that needs to be.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not going to go through and do anything with clippers, which is perfectly okay. I can take their pretty short with scissors and a comb. That's how I was trained.
Not super short, but maybe half that, I guess.
Okay. So you don't want to see any skin at all.
No.
That.
Especially because they're quite thin on the sides. It's super thick on top, but when they buzz it on the sides, it's super short. I realize it's kind of thin on the sides.
Yeah.
Which I think is normal, but.
All right. Cool. So let's do that. Let's cake you up, spray it down, start working on sides, and then we'll start working towards the top. Earlier, before we started recording, you said that you've been here in Austin for 17 years, which explains the accent, because if you've been here your whole life, this is the craziest Austin accent I've ever heard. So tell me a little bit about you. So where are you from originally? So how did you go from there to Austin?
Grew up in England, right in the middle. Came here originally to ride my BMX with a friend, just escape the British winter. Never went home, kind of. We'd make a few trips back and forth. I met my wife on that first trip. So that was kind of the thing that kept me coming back. And spent a few years just going back and forth, and then eventually moved here It was a long time ago.
Is BMXing a big thing in England? Because when I think of sports or activities in England, BMXing does not come to mind for me. Like skateboarding, I could see. You know, obviously football it's probably takes place of
Oh yeah,
so it's like
yeah,
it's like football. It's like American football in Texas. It's like
yeah,
it's number one
yeah,
before everything else.
yeah.
But BMXing, I just never would have thought BMXing. I don't know why.
It's pretty niche. I mean, yeah, it wasn't huge, but that's just what we grew up doing. So
Yeah.
to me, it was, big.
Is there a lot of places to do BMX biking in England?
We have pretty good forestry. So like, yeah, I mostly rode trails like dirt jumps out of the woods, just building big jumps. So it's pretty good for that. But the season's really short because the weather's pretty miserable. So you spend a lot of time building the things, and then you get this real short season to ride it, which is what made Austin so appealing, because you could put the bike in a bag and actually ride in the winter, because there wasn't much going on in the winter in England. Yeah, that was the appeal initially. And Austin's a BMX town, and it just seems to have always been that way. Yeah, that's kind of where I landed.
I recently discovered that BMXing is a thing here in Austin. I never,
It's huge.
I did not know that. Friend, she works at Fox Motorsports, and she was telling me all of her BMX friends were all out here in Austin. And she said, yeah, it's a huge BMX community. I was absolutely just, what?
It's still kind of, I mean, it's like,
I just think, like, I don't see anything that would be indicative of a BMX community out here, except for the one park on 9th Street that I just discovered.
There isn't much that's been it's not exactly been fostered by the city. Although I think that's changing. There's talk of a big bike park going in off of Balm Road at 183.
Okay.
So that could be a huge thing in the next few years. But yeah, it's just kind of an underground thing, I guess. There was a lot of industry here, like late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of pros moved here, again, just because of the weather, I think, more than anything. And then, yeah, that sparked it up. That's kind of been its reputation. But it's still it's like skateboarding's little brother, really. So, it doesn't get as much attention as you'd see from other sports, I suppose. It seems to be growing. Like there's more money in the sport than there's probably ever been.
BMXing at the X Games, or if you'd see it at like the Warp Tour, what they were able to do, the amount of control it takes. Because for a while I used to ride a fixie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No brake, right?
Uh-huh.
Sounds really smart, especially in traffic.
Oh,
it's great.
Yeah.
No helmet, nothing. You're there dressed like in your total hipster attire, right? So it's like a tank top, cut up jean shorts,
right,
and a backpack, because you have tools and parts, because you're gonna run a flight at some point. Your chain's gonna come off, and you're gonna have to have an assortment of tools.
Yep.
And I just thought it was the goal was always at a red light. If you decided to not run the red light, which is a thing that fixies liked to do, is could you just balance it for the whole time?
Oh, right. Just hover it back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
Yeah.
And just to see these guys on a BMX bike do something quite similar to that, right? But they're not hovering. They're balancing on these tiny little pieces, which I know is not totally BMX, but it was just crazy. They're on these BMX bikes doing stuff.
It's pretty spectacular. I grew up around bikes, like just all kinds of bikes. Parents would take me to the grocery store on the back of a tandem. Dad had a unicycle, tricycles, like you name it, just all kinds of bikes. So I was just around it. And then that for me turned into BMX, because BMX is just the most dependable bike. It's the one that's going to give you the least trouble. I agree. And they're pretty mobile and agile, and you can do a lot with them. So yeah, I just fell in love with it.
When I was growing up, everybody wanted to have either a mongoose or Diamondback.
Diamondback, yeah.
I had a Diamondback, and then our neighbor had a mongoose, and then his sister had a unicycle.
Okay.
And another neighbor had one of those like 1800 style bikes where the wheel was like 6 feet tall.
Oh, the penny farthing.
Yeah. And we would all, and he would go bike riding around our neighborhood with us, and we just thought it was the craziest thing because.
Yeah, unicycle and a penny farthing.
Yeah,
sixes. Yeah, that's a good crew.
It looked like the circus was in town. All we needed was like a bear juggling. You went from coming over to Austin from England to do BMX. Were you pursuing it as a career, or was this more of like an active hobby that just sort of You did everything in your life to support this hobby and interest at that moment.
I don't know if I was that dedicated to it, but it was my social network. It was the culture I was in. Yeah, I mean, it was just the lifestyle, We would travel with the bikes and got the opportunity to come to Austin and figured why not. Yeah, it was a big part of my life for a long time.
During this entire time, had you already had an interest in photography? Because ultimately that's what you do.
Yeah, always had a camera with me. I mean, that was part of it too, just like taking photographs the whole time. When I first came here, I was in school doing my Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communication.
Okay.
Which is pretty varied, but I was specializing in photography. I was in the darkroom a lot. The trips were kind of billed it to our professors as, we need to be on the road so that we can build a body of work. And they were pretty cool about it. We ended up taking a good chunk of time off school under the agreement that we would come back with, work basically. So yeah, I did. Yeah, I shot a lot of photographs. I don't know quite to what standard it was, but we had fun doing it. Yeah, I got to document a big part of that, a big part of my life, which is great. And then, we'd come back to the UK and, spend months in the darkroom kind of printing a lot of that stuff, putting zines together or little shows and things,
And then were you shooting film at this time, or like what year was this? Because the reason I'm asking about the year is because digital cameras up until a certain point were really just kind of crap.
Yeah, we hadn't got on that yet. So this is probably 04, 05.
04 or 05?
Yeah.
Digital cameras stuck still.
Yeah, they weren't good. I mean, my school wasn't equipped with anything. There was nothing in the curriculum to teach digital photography. It was completely analog. Now, the speed at which that changed was kind of frightening. It was really right after I graduated, everything flipped. Film industry was really dying out at that point. Digital was taking off. I think it caught a lot of people off guard in education because it didn't quite know how to teach it. Weird time really to be coming out of the world in the world with, photography training, because the industry flipped completely. And I had no interest in digital. I didn't want to sit in front of a computer. I can't do that.
So you didn't even attempt it?
Not at first, no. I just stuck to my guns with the film cameras, After moving here, still shooting film, didn't have access to a darkroom. That made it kind of difficult, but kind of stuck with it. Used to shoot a lot of 8mm footage as well, like Super 8 stuff. But yeah, I mean, at some point the writing was on the wall, and fast forward a few years and it really was looking like film was just done, and I started to think this might not come back. That's what got me thinking about alternative photographic processes, specifically tintype, because it's all hand mixed. You make it yourself.
Since you dropped the word tintype, the only thing I'm familiar with tintype is from the app that I have on my Hipstamatic.
Okay.
It was a feature. And I thought it was really cool because what I loved about it is, and what I love about most things, which my wife always laughs at me, is I like things to look a little bit worn in. I like things to have imperfections. I'm not into perfect, flawless things. And I think because the pursuit of handmade things done well is always the humanity that is involved in that product. And a machine will do something flawless. So I agree with you about digital photography. If you know how to Photoshop like crazy, you can make it look unreal. But there's something very organic about things done with your hands. And developing a photo, which I don't think a lot of people, like, if you ever grew up with disposable cameras, it was still a far removed experience, because you would drop the roll of film off, they would put it in the machine, they would use their computer buttons, and they would print out the photos. And it wasn't even a handmade experience set for the most part.
Yeah.
I know this because I worked at a camera store. So I did this.
Yeah, they feed it into the machine.
And the machine, and you do a little color correction. Oh, it needs more cyan, needs more magenta, less yellow, and then you'd print it out, and then you'd have your photos. But what you're talking about is truly being in a darkroom.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how did you discover tintype? What was the origin of tintype? How long has tintype been around?
So it goes back to the middle 1800s. Not one of the earliest forms of photography, but it's really the one, especially in America, that like took off because it was pretty affordable and it wasn't super toxic and it had reasonable exposure times. Processes that had come before, very toxic, very slow, very complicated. Tintype comes along and kind of just revolutionized that. So it was very accessible just to regular people. You all of a sudden, all these itinerant photographers sprung up that could take a horse and wagon, just travel around the country and shoot regular people, for a fairly affordable amount. And they could, hand them back a photograph, which is something that, most people at that time had absolutely no access to.
What is the turnaround time from taking the image and then getting the physical copy of that image?
Takes me about an hour, and that's while I shoot other people. If I'm uninterrupted, 30 minutes. I mean, it's pretty quick.
So
you see the image really fast. There's no negative.
Wait, there's no negative?
There's no negative.
So what you're taking the photo of it's a one-off.
It's a one-off, super unique. It's the negative and the print straight to the plate. It's called a direct positive. So if you take a black and white film negative and you hold it against something black, the silver will read as a highlight and it flips. So that's the trick with the tintype. It is a negative produced on a black substrate. So it looks as though it's positive, but it's technically not a positive.
Oh, wow.
Which for me makes it really special because there's no intermediary, there's no duplication.
Yeah.
If I shoot your picture, the light bounces off your head, it hits the plate, that's the picture. There's nothing in between, which I think is what makes them so sought after with collectors. That piece of metal was in the room with the person who was photographed. It interacted with them in some way. It's very special.
That is actually really unique. I don't remember how I came across your profile. I don't remember. I think it may have popped up on my Explorer page or something. It was right after I had filmed an episode with, I guess, his name's Andre, and he has this account called Chef PSA. His whole thing's about chefs and leadership and management. He's a retired, executive chef in restaurants. And he was talking about rebranding and this and that. I said, and he was talking about he needs to get headshots. I go, dude, you need to do a different headshot, a headshot that nobody is using in your industry so that we can stand out. Mm-hmm. And then right when I said that to him, it was like the next day, your account gets on my radar.
Oh, they're listening.
He's sick. Of course, the CIA is listening.
Yeah.
You can't spell social without CIA. I don't know if you know about that.
That's true.
I love words within words. So yeah, social media, CIA.
I mean, I'll be impressed if they're promoting my account. Yeah, the amount of times me and my wife are discussing a product and then I open my phone and there it is.
Yeah, they're always listening. No, it says that. Even when it's off, they're always listening.
I believe it.
I know. So do I. So I sent him your account. I go, you should go to him and have your photo taken, and that should be your cool.
Oh, photo. Sweet. Okay.
And I don't know if he's done it or not, but he's like, oh yeah, but like he's the guy who he takes in a lot of ideas and then he's going to sort it out to figure out which is most aligned with this brand. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big fan of like going in a hard other direction in whatever everyone is doing in your industry to do almost the opposite, because you'll create ripple effect of, well, what's this guy doing? He looks different than everybody else.
Yeah, you stand out. Yeah,
exactly. I believe in standing out. I don't like if you're doing something in the pursuit to have your own lane, if you will, you need to be like a horse in a race and not to acknowledge the other people that's happening around you. Focus on you. Mm-hmm. I love what you're doing. I think it's so cool. You discovered Tintype. Was this in Austin that you discovered the Tintype, or is something that you knew about from school?
I knew about it from school, just photo history. I was aware of the process, but not in any detail. The real moment was actually in San Antonio on our first trip. A friend of mine, I'll be eternally grateful to him for this. He handed me a National Geographic, and he'd always be bringing me just interesting things. It's just, hey, look at this strange, character. But he handed me a National Geographic, and there was just a column about this guy, John Coffer, who had worked Wall Street in the 90s and made a lot of money and then decided to walk away from it. He bought a farm in upstate New York and started milking cows, lived in a barn pretty much, just total off-grid. And he had really fallen in love with this process of making tintypes. It really suited his aesthetic. So he was shooting a lot of pictures just of farm life, but he ended up taking it on the road in the 90s. So he took a horse and a car and he traveled all across America shooting these photographs. Yeah, got himself a little piece in National Geographic, which I read, and that just percolated for a few years of me just thinking about like wow, you can actually still do this, because I wasn't really aware of that when I'd first learned about this process. So yeah, that just sat with me for a long time. And then when I started to see the writing on the wall with film photography and kind of where I thought that was headed, which turns out to have not been really true because it's kind of having a renaissance. Yeah, I started to think, if I teach myself this process, because you're just buying basic chemistry, you're buying raw ingredients. Like a lot of it's like vinegar and grain alcohol and iron and oil.
When you're saying grain alcohol, you're going to the liquor store.
You're buying handles of Everclear, yeah, and coming back with it and making potion.
Not like vodka.
You technically could use vodka. The purity's not quite there. So
I'm just wondering, could you somehow use vodka and get a vodka sponsor? Could you get like a Deep Eddy sponsorship of using their vodka?
You could mix it in there. Yeah, you could incorporate.
I'm just wondering if there's like a sponsorship here in the work.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah,
or like I'm totally forgetting the area that's like out west from here.
Dripping Springs?
Yeah, Dripping Spring vodka.
Tito's, yeah.
Yeah, you can usually see. Yeah. What about gin? Is gin lower on the grain alcohol content?
Don't know, really, not really.
I'm wondering now, like, if you were to do a series of different alcohols, like, would it change? Yeah, like, hey, this is bourbon.
I've seen it done with whiskey, actually, in the developer, and I believe it worked. It's a surfactant, so it basically allows the developer to kind of glide cleanly across the plate. So if you're using an impure alcohol or an alcohol with too much water in it, it might not be as slick when it hits the plate, but you could use a little more of it. And that might actually lead to some pretty interesting artifacts that show up on the photograph. So yeah, you could definitely run an experiment and mix in some liquor with the developer and see what happens. So I use Everclear or just straight ethanol if I can get it.
Is it hard to get ethanol?
I buy it as fireplace fuel. So no, it's actually pretty affordable. It's much more affordable than Everclear, but that's just because I know the purities to a certain level.
Yeah,
but you really just put an alcohol in there.
Could you use an alcohol?
Actually, no, because they put something in there to discourage people from drinking it, and it's not just a bitterant; it's like a really pretty noxious substance. And actually, recently, another tintype photographer was struggling to get the grain alcohol because it's restricted in a lot of states, which is a real pain. So he'd gotten some denatured alcohol, I think, which I guess is rubbing alcohol. He put it in his varnish, and as soon as he varnished the plate, the image just dissolved. It's completely gone. Wow. So whatever's in there is not good for photography. And I definitely wouldn't be drinking it, which I'm assuming is why it's in there.
It sounds like this guy needs to know how to do moonshining.
Yeah, I mean, you could just start distilling your own. Yeah, get a cornfield going and make some mash.
He just needs to take a trip to North Carolina.
Well, that's what he does, actually. He just drives across the state line and just buys a bunch of Everclear and drives it back.
I'm taking guess he's in Utah?
No, he's in...
Because they have the strictest alcohol percentages.
I think he's in Pennsylvania.
Huh, that's weird.
Yeah. A lot of these states, you can buy all kinds of liquor, but if it's over a certain proof, they won't sell it. So it makes it really hard to get. But Texas, no problem.
I thought moving to Texas, everything would be a little bit more like, hey, you can do this. And then I was so shocked that you couldn't get raw milk as easily, which you can get in California. You can go to any, like a Sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the same Sprouts that we have here in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Don't buy it.
And just buy it right off the shelf.
It's labeled for pet food though, right? Is it actually...
It's the same for
thing. I realize it's the same thing, but I think that's the workaround, isn't it?
I haven't been able to find the raw milk for pets here.
I haven't either. We've been looking.
I know where you can get raw milk.
Right, we get it too.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of which, I need to make that
order. Local pastures, right?
Yeah. I'm panicking because if I don't...
Oh, I know
about it.
Well, also, if you don't have it, like we've only forgotten it once or twice, and we just crave it, and all week we're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Because we buy 4 gallons of this stuff.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, we drink so much milk.
We do 2 gallons every week.
Okay,
and then I do the largest cream.
Oh yeah, the cream's really good.
And then we make homemade carnivore ice cream with it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've been doing that too. Yeah, with egg yolks. Mm-hmm. Is that how you guys eat carnivore?
It's a hybrid between carnivore and some paleo options.
Cool.
So basically, no seed oils.
Yeah.
No corn.
Mm-hmm.
No grains.
Oh, no grains at all.
We'll do hang on, get sort of going on.
Yeah.
Like an ancient grain, like einkorn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we use that too. Wow, sounds like we're eating pretty similar.
Yeah, yeah. And then we will do, I just get this, and then this is unusual. I never do this in the middle, but I meant to do this earlier and I got sidetracked. Oops.
Oh, no need to apologize. I'd be dropping everything too. I would put it in my wife's hands now because she's more reliable than me. I forgot once. She's forgot once. Those were long weeks.
Oh, yeah.
No raw milk. I had to go to the store and buy the pasteurized crap. Ugh, just terrible.
Yeah.
Is it noon the cutoff?
Yeah.
Are we past noon?
Yeah.
They're pretty good if you message them.
I am. All right. Woo. Panic attack.
Last time I was there picking up the milk, I had our 4 in the cart, and this kid comes up to me and he's probably about 8, and he started bargaining with me like, "Hey, we didn't get our milk order in this week, and we really miss it. And can I trade you? Like, I got some caveman blend, and I got a couple of ribeyes here." And I was like, "I'm sorry, man. If I don't go home with 4 gallons, we're gonna be in trouble."
I've been finding more people are going that route, raw milk. And I think everyone thinks you're going to die with it. But everyone always talks about how yogurt has this amazing bacteria and it's so good for your gut. I'm like, you have more of that in raw milk than you would in yogurt or even the next thing I could think of would be like raw kefir. We have like the golden kefir, if you really want to go down that route with like, this is good for your gut and your stomach and all that. I've been into that health space for years.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to have all these people watching that Netflix documentary where they're talking about the fecal transplants. And have you heard about that? Oh, so these people do fecal transplants to change the biochemistry of the gut.
Take bacteria.
Yeah. And so somebody who had depression, they got the fecal transplant from that person and that person became depressed. And then somebody who had really bad acne who never had it. Like, I don't have acne. And then let's say I had received a fecal transplant from somebody who had bad acne.
Why would you do that?
They got bad acne. They were talking about how your gut actually may be more in control of your body than your brain. And I had a natural path client for years. She would say, your gut is a second brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that this gut controls more of this than what you think. Once we took all the dyes and everything and all the refined sugars out of our food, like hardcore, we noticed a huge change, just with our kids and their ability to be more calmer.
Okay. That's why we started with the raw milk issues for my kid, because we needed to supplement a little bit. And I was looking at all these formulas and just the garbage ingredients that are in them. It's really depressing. That's kind of your only option. So obviously no judgment to anyone who uses that stuff, but
I'll judge in your absence. I'm just kidding.
Well, we went a few weeks with, your powdered formula, and I just couldn't because we were eating pretty clean by that point. And then we ended up finding a raw milk baby formula through Western A Price and started making that, and he just was thriving on it. So we all started drinking it, and now we just crave the stuff. I mean,
it's so different.
It's so nutritious.
Do you ever mix it with raw honey inside?
Mm-hmm. I put a little, sometimes we do crack an egg yolk and then mix it with some maple syrup.
Yep.
So good.
Our kids, every morning for breakfast, will have the raw unfiltered honey mixed in with that. And then we put a little bit of the naked whey powder so they get a little bit higher protein.
A little extra protein.
Oh, dude. And they crave this. And I had it. It's like, this is all healthy and it tastes better than any dessert I've ever had.
That's the beauty of it, really. It tastes like you, especially when you make ice cream out of it.
Man, it's like it
tastes like you shouldn't be enjoying this so much, and it shouldn't be good for me, but it really is a superfood,
Yeah. Right now, like what I'm thinking about this conversation as it's happening is that you started on something that was at the time the new greatest thing, which was regular cameras. And then technology occurred, and then everyone went into a hard position of digital photography. Mm-hmm. And then we're seeing this resurgence of film because these young kids are wanting to relive the 90s, which I tell everybody was the greatest time ever grow up.
Yeah, it might well have been, mightn't it?
Yep. Oh, yeah. And
the last of the great.
All these kids are wanting to relive the 90s with their clothes, and they're all going back to the same music. I mean, I've had at the salon, you hear these young guys, like these young girls, oh, have you ever heard of this band? Like, you may know them because they're old. And I'm like, thank you. They're like, oh, have you ever Stone Temple Pilots? I'm like, yeah. It's like, dude, the new Pearl Jam. I'm so excited. I'm like, what?
There's a new Pearl Jam.
Yeah, but the point is that these are all 90s things. So they're coming in with their chokers and they're coming in all their 90s fashion. They're all wearing Jinko jeans again.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to see that. And they're all into film. And now there's digital apps for your camera to make your digital photos look like they were on a point and shoot.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I mean, it shows you what people are hungry for, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's certain authenticity there.
Here you and I are talking about all this older photography and how there's a collector, there's a market for it. It's this handmade thing. There's more of a personal connection. And we're also talking about eating probably the way our great grandparents did.
Yeah.
It's like we're all kind of realizing that maybe all this newfangled stuff is not all what it's meant to be.
No, I think you know, it's easy to get spellbound by modernity and, you know, this sort of brave new world that we live in, and technology does everything for you. Yeah, at some point the spell wears off, and I think it's starting to wear off, and people are realizing that, like, industrially processing our food is it's not good for our bodies, and it's really contributing to a lot of the problems that we have. So yeah, in my opinion, we can't get there fast enough in a lot of areas of life, like just looking at how we did things, how our great grandparents would have done something, and just using that as the template, you know, modeling that behavior.
I mean, something as crazy as this, and I know this sounds like really wild, but we as a family, and I know my wife feels this way, but I'm very adamant about, we all have dinner together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
No TV on.
No phones.
No phones. Sometimes phones, depending on, like, my wife's job depends that she has to have access to a phone. She might be like, okay, I got to take this, you know, or I'm like, hey, there's a client issue or whatever, right? The scheduling. But for the most part, phones are away. TV is off. Music. We'll have that on.
Yeah.
Something in the background.
Yeah.
And that used to be a normal thing.
Yeah, it was.
And now that's like, wow, our schedule's too busy to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it too busy to do that? Or is it not that important? And that's the question I ask everybody.
Yeah.
And then the question I'm going to ask you is, how are we feeling on the sides? You said about half. So I'm thinking this piece right here is kind of winging out a little bit.
Yeah.
You need this cowlick that wants to, like, push. It's going to push up over this way. I'm aware that if I take it too short, it'll stick straight up.
Okay. Well, then I trust your opinion. But yeah, it does have a tendency to kind of puff out on the sides.
Yeah.
So anything we can do to minimize that is appreciated.
Cool. I actually think the shape is good. Okay. The length is going to be fine. I think we do need to take some of the bulk out without making it overall short. So putting short pieces in the long there will give you some fun texture, as well as it will collapse the bulk.
Okay. Yeah, just thin and out. Yeah, that sounds good.
How long have you been doing the Tintype now as a business? It looks like it's a mobile business.
Yeah, so it's been 2013, so 11 years. Yeah, I built a little studio basically, so it's on wheels. Going back to the John Coffer inspiration, you know, the 1800s America was filled with itinerant photographers. They'd have a little wagon and they'd just go town to town and shoot pictures. The wagon was more of the darkroom. They'd kind of shoot you out in natural light. Yeah, that was the inspiration. Like, build this little studio, have everything on board. So it's got a darkroom in it, it's got water, it's got air conditioning, and then we can set the studio up inside that space.
So your studio is in the place we were also doing the developing?
No, everything's in there. So you walk in the door, you basically walk right into the studio. That's where I shoot in the main body of the trailer. Out back behind the little door, I've got a little dark room with a sink, and that's where everything gets developed. So it's all on site. So yeah, we can just pack it up, hitch it up, take it anywhere really. Events, done a lot of work on the road. Yeah, all kinds of stuff, commercial shoots, you name it. Everything's just kind of plug and play. Once we set it up, we can just shoot.
Also know it seems like you also do photography as well, outside of the Tintype. Is that as much of a passion as this, or is this passion? In both instances, you're taking photos, right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of just a photography nerd, so I'll shoot anything. But funnily, the Tintype being the 9 to 5, that's predominantly what I shoot in terms of volume. I just shoot a lot of them.
It appears on your Instagram that you have dates and times that you're at a specific location, which would be more or less like your studio space.
It's pretty consistent. I keep it at a little French restaurant called Justine's. It's on the east side. It's a pretty special little spot. I keep it out in their courtyard. They've had me the whole 11 years. They've just been incredible, like so hospitable. That's kind of its home base. So it sits there most of the time. Keep pretty regular hours, Thursday through Sunday. And
Tuesday through Sunday?
Thursday through Sundays. And folks just make bookings online and then come on down. It's pretty straightforward.
I want to do it.
You should, yeah. You should bring the kids for sure.
I want to do that. I think it'd be so cool. Is there a size limit of the image? Like, like if you go to, let's say, Walmart to get your pictures printed out from your digital source, you can do like a 4x3 or a 8x10. Is there, like, what's the largest someone could go and get an image from you? I'm just curious about this. I don't know anything about Tintype.
So because there's no negative, you shoot straight to the plate. So
yeah.
The biggest I can shoot in the studio is 8x10.
Okay.
And that's by literally putting an 8x10 piece of metal in the camera and shooting straight to it. I can reprint it. I work with Agave Print on Cesar Chavez. They're a really good printer, and they can blow it up as big as you like. We've blown some of them up really big because it's such a high resolution file. It's like almost infinite resolution in there.
Isn't that funny about like how we've been trying to create this crazy big megapixel, but actual film has an endless.
Oh yeah. And Tintype, especially because it's grainless, there's no grain structure to it.
It's so cool.
The ISO is so low that there's essentially no granularity. There's no breakdown. It breaks down at the molecular level of silver. So when you scan it at a high resolution and zoom in, I mean, it'll out-resolve anything out there. It's ridiculous.
I would love to do like a family portrait with the Tintype because I think it's way more interesting than like the normal family photos.
Yeah, and they last a long time, which is kind of a big selling point, really. You're making something that the kids will probably hand down to their kids. And it's hard to say that with a lot of photographic processes because we know they have a certain lifespan. And then certainly with digital, it's like, where's that going to be? If you don't print it, who knows?
Well, you could lose the file so quickly. It'd be like no different than losing a negative in a fire or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But the thing I worry about is what if in the next 10 years or 5 years, they do a different file.
Yeah, and you can't read it anymore.
And they said, hey, and maybe there's not really a way to convert your, JPEG to some new, because think about with digital files, you have TIFF, you have JPEGs, PNGs, you have all of these things. And what if one of them just seems to be now the new dominant one and there's no way to save as and drop down and there go all my JPEGs.
They're all gone.
They're all gone,
Yeah, or technology improves. I mean, I know a lot of early digital photographers found that the resolution of screens was going up and it was, rendering all your old files quite, inferior.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, all kinds of things like that change. Whereas, when you have you have a physical negative, you kind of know what you're getting with it and the resolution is what it is, It's not changing. It's not going to become obsolete. Like you can always do something with it.
No, it's a really cool art. So you got this National Geographic book, which inspired you and went percolating for a while. And then from there, where did the moment of going, you know what, I think I want to do a business. I think this is going to be my thing.
Like somewhat got pushed into that because I'd been playing around with it and just working corporate America and really deeply dissatisfied with that.
And what were you doing with corporate America?
I had started as an installation technician putting in security cameras, which is a job I really enjoyed because you'd be in people's homes, like all over the state.
And you're still dealing with cameras, which you like cameras.
We were doing sensors and fire suppression stuff. Like, we never got into cameras. I did keep a camera with me and I would sort of shoot on the road. Eventually that job turned into like a middle management position. Like I was kind of running the Austin branch. Yeah,
that was not you.
No, because I'm behind a desk. I'm dealing with home office and it really ran out of steam for me. I wouldn't say they were the most ethical company to work for. So I had a lot of then a bit of a moral quandary with it. Like, do I want to keep doing this? The answer of which I knew was no. So yeah, it just became like a brainstorming session. Like, okay, how can I leverage this Tintype? I felt like I was in the right town and it felt like it was kind of the right time in a lot of ways. Because there were a lot of creative businesses opening up. So it just felt kind of right. Yeah, kind of just had to jump off the cliff at some point. Started building the studio in my spare time. And then the wheels were coming off my gig pretty fast. So I sort of had to expedite that towards the end and just push it out into the world, really.
Do you ever wonder that would you have gotten to where you were had it not been for the pressure to that one thing was ending and that you had to make something work?
I did have this discussion with my wife the other day, and I think, yes, there is we just take on a mortgage. There was a necessity there of like, we kind of have to make this work. I didn't have the luxury of it just kind of being a pet project. Like, it had to work. And we had a very limited pool of resources. So, I mean, it was like, I think we gave it like 3 or 4 months. It was like, this has to work in 3 or 4 months. Otherwise we sell it and I go do something else. You know, looking back on it, it's like kind of a miracle that it took off as quickly as it did. I didn't have a place to put the studio. Like, we had a couple of different spots around Austin. It was like finding out. I'm still learning the process too. Like, with hindsight, I could make an image, but it was really hit and miss. We'd have days when like the chemistry would go wrong and you couldn't make a photograph. You know, people coming in and it's just, I don't know how to fix it. You know, I'm still kind of green. So yeah, super stressful.
So there's some growing pains.
Definitely. But, landing at Justine's was kind of the big turning point, because all of a sudden it was like as many people as I could shoot in a night were lined up waiting to do it.
That's awesome.
It was amazing, but also super scary, because when things go wrong with Tintype, they go really wrong. I mean, if you put a, pair of clippers through my head right now and just, shaved a big line down the middle, it's that kind of like, we're done. You know what I mean? You're going to have to go home. I give you your money back. It's done.
I was actually thinking about all the mistakes of haircutting. Like, there's some mistakes, like, oh, that's a little short. Okay, well, it won't get any shorter. Oops, I misunderstood something. But then there's some mistakes. Like, I was doing a fade with some clippers, and the guard wasn't completely secure, and it popped off right before I made contact. It went, but it was like really low.
Okay.
And he looked at me and goes, "Can we fix it?" Like, he already knew. And I was like, the look on my face was just, right? Like, all the color of my skin, which isn't much to begin with, completely just, came out. And I said, "Yes, as long as you're okay with the skin fade." He goes, "I just don't want to look like I belong in a Jackass movie." And I said, I completely agree. We will not make you look like, Johnny Knoxville just went to Bam Margera, and we always go from there. Oh yeah, it was an easy one to make to fix. I'm just glad it was down here.
Yeah, and sometimes
it's not like there's a skin mark up here, because there's no way to recover from that. Unless we're we're going full on G.I. Joe.
Sometimes you need little mistakes like that, because you never make that mistake again. I'll probably push that shot down.
Totally secure on. And I thought the sound that was on there was just like the clippers needing oil. And I'm like, all I was doing is just touching up a little spot. So in my head,
you're like, done.
I'm like, I'm already done. I'll just put oil after. And I didn't care to look and realize that had I just paid a fraction of a second more, I would have never made that mistake.
That's brutal.
But had I never made that mistake, I probably would have made a bigger mistake.
Right, done it somewhere worse to a less forgiving client, maybe.
And hopefully those learns that you had were similar to where you had hopefully an understanding.
Oh yeah,
subject to those. I get it.
Yeah,
it is science. It's chemistry. Not everything works as it's expected to.
I've always been, amazed by almost everybody who's gotten a bad photograph. Super forgiving. They'll let you reshoot it. They'll work with you. It's very rare to have somebody, completely disappointed. And they know that's kind of the nature of it.
I think that's part of the experience too.
Yeah, it is to some extent, but it's not a good feeling to make an unflattering portrait of somebody. It's not good. You all know it doesn't look good, but it's a difficult conversation to have. I have a very critical eye, and even if somebody likes that picture, I think it's not quite right, I'm going to ask if we can reshoot it. I want a second chance at it. But yeah, in the early days, it was a lot of that. I train a lot of people in this process, and that's always the thing I tell them is like, you're going to mess this up, and nobody wants to hear it, but it's a way to learn,
Yeah.
You won't make the same mistakes twice. I mean, you will, but you'll know what went wrong. You'll know how to fix it. And you can kind of grow from there, really.
I think what happens a lot with when you're doing something new is that I think everyone just has this American Idol complex. They're just going to go on, they're going to hit out the park, and then everything's going to run smooth. But the reality is it's not that. Like, if somebody had saw that, oh, they're doing this Tintype thing back in like 2013, right? Now, 11 years later, they see you're running this very successful business. To them, on an outside look, success is here. But there's a meme where it's like, success looks like from this to this, but reality,
It's a
you're taking squiggly lines and back steps, and then you finally end up at this spot. But to you, you're like, this is exhausting to get here. Somebody told me a long time ago about podcasts. They said most people stop podcasts right before they're about to go over their plateau to the next level. And they said usually it's one of two things. They stop before 1 year or they stop before 100 episodes. It says, so whichever one comes last is the one that you need to. Then you really say like, hey, what am I actually doing?
Yeah, refine it.
Yeah. And I started thinking about that with so many other creative fields in life where, who was I talking about? I don't know who I was talking about this with, but it's like, if you were to become a lawyer, you go to school, you pass the bar, and there's a pretty easy set plan about getting into a law firm or starting your own. It's more of a plug and play profession. Do you want to be a doctor? Same thing. There's a path. There's a path. When you go to school to be any sort of visual artist or visual communicator, there's no path of plug and play to equal stability. And I'm going to say stability versus success.
Okay.
Because stability to me is success in a creative field. From having friends in music and art, there's a lot of great ones, but their lives are like...
Yeah, it's chaos.
And some of them thrive in it. Matter of fact, that may actually be the whole reason they're so good at it. And then there's people like me where I want stability.
Yeah, you want it to be sustainable.
Yeah, because then I'm allowed to think of other cool things while this other thing is working.
Yeah, I'm the same. Wanting to do something creative out of school, no idea where to take that. Felt like my education was a bit of a mismatch for industry, again, because of the analog to digital flip. So yeah, it was really tough to start with. Yeah, sometimes you can have too many options, It's like you could go in so many different directions. You get kind of paralysis and you don't know where to turn,
Oh, I agree. I think we do that with our kids a lot. We give them less. That makes sense. Like they don't get TV. Right now they have a little bit of TV. So the first full week of summer break right now, it will be a movie. Okay. It's not just free reign. It's not like they just watch TV for 9 hours.
Yeah, it's just browsing.
Yeah, and it makes it more special. Yeah. I don't know what it was like growing up in England, but we did have, you have cable, but you don't get to choose that you want to watch.
Oh, we didn't.
Power Rangers when you want to watch Power Rangers.
Right.
If you weren't home at 4 p.m., Power Rangers was going to go on without you.
Yeah.
You had no idea what happened until you watched next week. They do the recap. Now you can watch 9 seasons in a week.
Yeah. Burn through it.
Too much access, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just too much.
I like the restrictions with tintype photography. Like there are certain parameters, like you can't cross certain lines. Like it's very restrictive. I hate that, but I thrive on it at the same time. It's good to be kind of boxed in terms of like what you can and can't do, because you have to get really creative within those confines. It's like tying one hand behind your back and then seeing if you can still fight. Keeps things super interesting.
So run your hands through your hair, Adrian. I don't know if this front piece is too long, but I just wanted to give you that like longer sort of.
No, it's a bit. That's great. I like a bit of length up front. So
you said it was a little long, so I took about an inch or so.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I know you just kind of like toss it up and you don't really put any product in it. Are you opposed to me just putting something into it, or you want to leave it as is?
You can if you like. Yeah, not opposed to it.
I'm all about making sure that the person is leaving going, this is what I would do. This is how I would look. I don't want to make you into something you're not,
No, I always like to see it, actually. My hairdresser does that too. So yeah, don't have an issue with it. Yeah, I just generally don't. I just super low frills, just get out of bed, get it out of my eye and go on my day.
So cool. So I have to ask you, so since you do so much of this analog photography, Can you own a digital camera?
Yeah, I do. I do shoot digitally. I had a bit of an issue when my son was born. This is going on 3 years ago now. I was using one of these network drives where you can access all the files remotely.
We have one as well in our house.
Well, I got ransomware attacked. The manufacturer did, actually. Somehow the information got leaked and all of their clients got, all the files got locked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a huge ordeal. This is like every scan of every tintype I've ever made, every scan of every roll of film, every digital photograph, just like terabytes of information. Long story short, it took a few months of back and forth with friends of mine who were technical, but I had to pay a ransom. I had to go buy Bitcoin and pay these people to get the files unlocked. So it was the only solution.
Can I ask you, like, what were they asking? Was there any negotiating the price down, or was it like,
man, the really frustrating thing was the price of Bitcoin had jumped at that point. So
yes.
I got, I forget the specifics, but it came out to be about, no, sorry, the price dropped. That's what happened. So anyway, I locked up the files. It would have been about $1,200. The price of Bitcoin collapsed. And I thought, oh, great. I just halved what I have to send these people. And they renegotiated the terms because they
had a certain number they wanted
to do whatever they want, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you hadn't paid them by a certain date, the price went up and it went back up to $1,200 again. So, yeah, we just had to fork it over.
$1,200 seems, I don't want to say it sounds reasonable.
It could have been worse.
It could have been, $20,000.
This happened to just thousands of people, though.
So they probably did the math. They said, hey man, there's 100,000 people here, $1,200 a pop. We're making clean on our Bitcoin.
Yep.
And they probably went and bought a bunch of AMC stock with it.
Well, I hope so. A lot of people who got stung with this, it's just they were using it as a media server or whatever. So it's a bunch of stuff they downloaded or they had it backed up somewhere else. So they're not going to pay the ransom. But it was heartbreaking reading some of the other stories. I mean, it was people in my situation where it's like, this is a life's work. This is my business. This is everything. Plenty of people talked over the money. Anyway, luckily got all the files back, but they were all out of order and Lightroom wouldn't sync with any of them again.
Ever?
The catalog's just a mess. It's all right.
So what are you doing in the meantime? Are you just letting them organize?
I haven't edited a photograph in 3 years on digitally. Like everything is just sitting there. I still shoot, but nothing's come off the memory card. Like it was such a traumatic experience. And having a kid too, not having the time to like re-engineer the catalog and, figure this out. So yeah, my digital workflow is really just like, just been put on hiatus. Like I make the time to shoot the photographs, but I don't have any workflow with it. They just sit on the memory card. So yeah, I'm in a really strange place with digital right now. Still shoot film, get the film developed. Again, I'll scan little pieces here and there if I want to see stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, it really took the wind out of my sails.
Do you ever, so like if you and your family are going on holiday, what do you take with you? The film camera?
I'll take a medium format. I take a Mamiya that will always go on vacation, and I will take a DSLR with a couple of lenses, and then I have a little point and shoot pocket-sized digital camera, which I love. I got that when my kid was born, just because I could just pick it up and clip it on a belt and take it.
If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, I'm so bad with this stuff.
That's fine.
It's a little Sony. Got a Leica lens on it.
Okay.
Little pop-up viewfinder.
Nice.
I love it though. It's a great little camera.
I used to have one, but it's easily 15 years old. It was right when the point and shoot Sony came out, where it had the largest image sensor.
Okay.
So it was like that first year they were able to make that, and it was a very expensive point and shoot. And everybody was like, "Why are you spending this much money on a point and shoot?" And I said, "It beats carrying on a really big camera for the same quality." And I think I'm at that point where I want to get another point and shoot, but I want it to have that same where I can shoot raw. Yeah, that's the big thing. Shooting in a raw file, and then I can put it into Lightroom if I want to, and do whatever I need. Because there's sometimes you get those raw files are great.
They're amazing.
And if you have really good glass, which is really point of a good photo's glass, everyone thinks it's the megapixels.
Yeah.
Megapixels help, but the glass is night and day difference. You can get some really good, like a glass or like a Zeiss lens and something like that. You can get some really great point and shoot photos.
Yeah.
Just by putting in
Yeah. Small pocket
camera, crossbody, whatever your terms of carrying things are.
Yep. Yeah, I've really been enjoying that camera. You know, my DSLRs are old. They're old D750s, just little workhorses. And they're pretty small, actually, for DSLRs, but it's still like, it's a bag of lenses and a bunch of stuff, you know. There's a lot to carry. Yeah, with a toddler running around, you've already got a lot of stuff. For big trips, I'll take the whole camera bag out, but I love the little point and shoot. It's been great. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the day where I can have a bit of time and space to re-engineer the Lightroom catalog and see what I can retrieve and then get back into that flow of shooting and editing. Because I just kind of had to walk away from it, really.
You still have the charm from it all, you know?
Yeah, honestly, like couldn't even open Lightroom without just having flashbacks from basically spending 3 or 4 months fully convinced that I had probably lost every single photograph I'd ever shot. And then the tintypes was the worst. Just because you don't have a negative with that. You your print and your negative to the client, it's gone. I love that about it. I love that is such a special artifact for them to have. But for me to be left with nothing was really, really hard to process.
So what do you see yourself doing with Tintype? Where are you seeing maybe having different studios or expanding and pull it behind like a motorhome and just tour the US?
I kind of did that in the early years. Like I would spend every summer on the road, been to both coasts, been up to Canada and down to the southern border and everywhere with it, you know. And the longer I do it, the more I really appreciate kind of just getting to sit in one place and serve the same people. Like I've had kids come in from, you know, when they were a bump all the way up to 8, 9 years old, you know, and that's pretty incredible to like have that consistent clientele that just keeps coming back. Yeah, the longer I do it, the more I think this is a pretty important service just to keep in one place, just to keep consistent. So that's kind of the goal. I'd like to not work nights as much. That's been tough. But other than that, I mean, I really enjoy it. I enjoyed being there and, you know, watching families grow and seeing people, you know, seeing the relationship grow and add kids and stuff. And they just keep coming back and taking photographs. It's really special.
Do you feel that as a photographer, you're trying to capture the true essence of a person in a shutter click?
Yeah. I try and do that in a very hands-off way. Like I try to not be involved in that process because that's a really hard thing, especially when you don't know someone. If someone's just walked through the door, like how do you really do that? And my approach to it has always been to just leave that person alone. Don't coach them too much. Don't pose them too much. Know when they need a little help because something doesn't look quite right. But yeah, just sort of walk away really, because I think you can bring something really special out when you do that.
And let them just kind of get familiar in the space.
Just, get them calm and quiet in front of the camera and focused on what you're doing and then back away, really, you know, because their personality will come out. But I think it's really easy to kind of, as a photographer, to over-engineer the picture. Like you have a vision, you want to see it a certain way, you know, and you start kind of moving certain parts around and posing people. And those are often not my favorite pictures.
Did you start off more like that originally?
No, I never actually enjoyed portrait photography. I always avoided it until Tintype came along. Yeah, I mean, I would do sort of casual stuff. No, never really enjoyed it. Never enjoyed being photographed either, which I think makes for a good portrait photographer because I think you can be quite gentle with people and you yourself don't like being in front of a camera. But now I discovered Tintype and it's just pretty clear to me that like this is a portrait medium. Like this is the medium. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do anything else with it. Nothing else really interests me. So yeah, even though I'd avoided portrait photography and particularly enjoy it, it was like, okay, I have to push through. That's what this is made for, you know.
Is there anything with Tintype that you haven't done that you want to do with that particular medium? Is there like a group of people or an experience or someone that you would just love to get in front of your camera because you would like to capture that individual? Or is it interacting with everyday people is enough for you?
There's enough variety in just opening the door. And this happens every single week. Somebody will come in with an interesting story. They're just an interesting person. They're just a regular person. And they'll just like they'll just knock it out of the park. They just take an amazing photograph. I feel so lucky to be able to do that. Like I don't have to go searching for photographs. They literally just walk through the door. And that's just what like keeps it, it's been a long time I've been doing this. And that's just what keeps it so interesting to me. Like you just never quite know what's around the corner. Yeah. So I'm just happy to do that, more of that. I'm kind of hungry for that because it's just so interesting to me. I mean, people that you would in the grocery store, you would just walk right past them, often take the most interesting photograph. And they'll tell you why they're there. They'll have a story sometimes as well. There's like more going on. And it's just endlessly fascinating to me.
I relate 100% because I was telling you before we filmed, this concept came out in 2018 to me is the most amazing stories I've had are people nobody ever knows about.
Right.
And people are interesting. And if you give them the opportunity to talk, and be themselves, interesting, cool, fascinating people show up.
Yeah. I wish I had more time with people because sometimes you get little glimmers of that, but I have these very quick appointments. It's 20 minutes. I'm in the darkroom for a lot of that. I'm rushing around. I'm fixing up other plates, and you get little glimpses of that. And I'm always like, I just want people to come back, so that relationship can grow so I can kind of understand more about that person's situation. Then there are other times where you take someone's photograph and it's like everyone else can wait. Like we're having a conversation, like something comes out there, you know what I mean? Or it needs to be discussed before the photograph can be taken. And then, whatever, you get behind for the rest of the evening. But it's like, that's really interesting to me, like taking photographs of people like that. You wouldn't know who's underneath the skin otherwise. They just seem like regular people.
To me, everyone's a regular person.
Yeah. But yeah, people are just people, right?
As a Depeche Mode lyric too, people are people. So,
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. You said you're not a music guy, so
No.
all I hear is music lyrics in my head half the time. Well, I would say thank you for coming over and let me cut your hair and pick your brain about Tintype. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, make a book.
I want to do it, and I was thinking it'd be really fun to do that, and maybe that could be like a Christmas card.
Yeah, I do. I get busy around Christmas. Yeah, a lot of people do for Christmas.
Do you ever set up a Christmas tree or something in the background?
We don't do
it a little bit more festive.
Don't do a Christmas special, but I do a Valentine's paper moon that's like a big hit. People really enjoy that. It's a big moon that you sit on, basically, kind of 1920s style.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, people love that at Valentine's. We've done various specials throughout the years, but that one has stuck. Like people really like that. For Christmas, it's just like extended hours, really, because we get so busy. I mean, you can do it any time between now and Christmas.
I imagine
December itself gets pretty
November. So
yeah, late November. Prime. Yeah.
I'm seeing if I want to get the photos printed and sent out, I got to talk to the wife about the cutoff of time.
Okay.
Because we've been trying. So like one of my friends is a great photographer, and during the pandemic time, I flew him out here. I'm like, I have all these Mayas. Like, might as well use them. Like, come out, take our photo. It was cool. It's a good friend. And outside of that, we haven't really taken family photos. And I would love to do a fun, artistic themed photo.
It's fun to get dressed up. The Christmas ones are always great because people dress up. The kids are in little Santa hats. So, everyone's got Christmas sweaters. They always look good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to dress for it. Or you just do the old-timey American Gothic, super serious kind of look. And you send that out as your Christmas card. And that's kind of the joke,
I would love to do it, like, just for my own. Like, I would love to have a fun headshot where that is just that. But I think, like, when you're shooting, you're just shooting out one photo. You're not taking like 5 or 6 and then developing them. You're like, all right, we have one shot.
One shot, yeah. Now I'll reshoot it if something goes wrong or the client doesn't like it.
Or if I blink.
You blink. We have chemical problems. Sometimes you get a giant streak across your face. Like something might go wrong.
That would
Okay, yeah. Some people are really good at, like, especially blinking.
I'm literally
your blinker.
Oh, totally. And my youngest son got the same genetic timing. My wife did modeling, so she like knows her angles, her spots, and my oldest, he instinctually knows where to put his head to. Like, we never coached him; he just does it.
Okay,
flawlessly. My youngest and I, who looks like my twin. One eye is open, the mouth is half covered, drugged, drunk, or sloth.
Well, Tintype's pretty good because it's super slow and you have to, and that's why I tell people this is a one-shot deal. It really sharpens the mind, like it focuses you. It's a good medium for people that aren't good in front of cameras because it's like everything gets kind of honed a little bit. Yeah, it really sharpens people's mind and gets them focused on what they're here to do. So usually it's a one-shot deal. And I have a sixth sense for blinkers. I just kind of know when people are going to blink. Like, I can almost like pre-visualize it, and I'll hold off. Because for me, it's like, that's a 10-minute penalty and a whole bunch of silver down the drain if we don't get that image first time, you know?
I have one more question, because you said it's a one-shot deal. And then you also said that less is more. Forces you to be more creative. And I'm going to tie this in with digital. Do you feel that had you grown up, when I say grown up, like playing with digital cameras versus film cameras, do you think that because you had film, that changed the importance of the planning of your photo?
I think I still would have been drawn to photography. And I think you see that in kids, like whatever the technology is, they just take to it, you know, you become fascinated with it. And this is why I think you see a lot of people that shoot digital go back to analog, is because it slows you down, because it's more intentional, because, you know, the stakes are higher. And I think that's a really good way to learn. So it's good to see a lot of people that do shoot digitally pick up a film camera and just work that way, because I think it makes you a better digital photographer. So like having that, you know, understanding of like, okay, I got 36 shots here at most. And we don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, versus like, I have 400. I just took 400.
Shoot as many minutes, right?
Yeah, you're shooting just to shoot.
And then you get analysis paralysis because you're just sitting in front of thousands of images trying to figure out which one's best. It's like,
I found a way to get through that actually pretty quickly.
Okay.
Is when I've taken, like, let's say it's someone who's really uncomfortable in front of the camera and you're snapping away just to try to like get that moment of them relaxing, right? Which could happen in between the shutter.
Right.
And so I'll take a lot if I have somebody who's really uncomfortable. And it's usually the last 20 photos are comfortable finally. But as I'm scrolling through, I just start hitting the rate button.
Oh, so you've got it pre-screened.
So I go, oh, that one's a good one. You like that? Yeah. And what that does is it gives me a marker of where in the journey they started getting comfortable and they started liking the photo.
Okay.
And so the first, let's say I took like 50 photos. The first 15, first 20 are just trash. Maybe outlier, you get one great one. But right where that first favorited one happens, you start seeing
that rate goes up.
Yes. And you start going like, well, we like this one, but the one right after it actually is a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like they can start getting into like these details. But that's for me. And that was my friend Arpit, who is my friend who's a photographer. He's like, he starts rating them as he goes.
It's really smart.
It made the searching for that needle in the haystack, which it truly is a needle in a haystack when you do a digital.
Oh, so much. Yeah.
Because you could get 400 photos so quickly.
I delete them in camera a lot. Like I'm just like, I kind of know, like I don't even want that on the memory card. Like it's just going to clog up everything. So I'll just go back through and delete, which is kind of that's a bold thing to do.
I do that if I know like their eyes are closed or the flash misfired and it's a dark image. It's like
not good.
These dead shots and like delete. And then sometimes they're like moving around. Like I've taken a bunch where I've created GIFs of hair moving back and forth.
Oh, cool.
So I go,
so you want all those filler shots.
Because I'm using like, yes, I want a portrait of beautiful hair, but I also want to create this cool movement animated image. So I do want to shoot multiple images.
Right.
And I found that working with continuous lighting is way better than using a strobe, because that strobe has to recharge. And if you're doing like 15 shots and you don't have like its highest refresh rate, man, it's like the first 4 are great and then everything else is slowly getting darker.
Yeah.
It's bad. Thank you for doing this, dude. Thank you, Adrian. And hopefully enjoying your haircut.
Yeah, it's great. That looks really good. Yeah.
Sweet.
So my dad would call a little boy's haircut. He'd sit me down in the chair and one little boy's haircut, please.
Little boy's haircut.
It's the same haircut I had since I was born till I got creative in my 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
And you went back to it?
Oh, yeah. It's all I know, I love it. Yeah.
Sometimes there's just a look and you just nail it and you just stick with it. I tell them to people all the time, like, if you find something that looks good on you, just rock it until you can't, until you're forced to change or you get bored with it.
Yeah. I've just gotten creative in the last couple of years. Like I grew it really long. I got it almost down to, it's got a bit of a curl when it gets that long. It was too much. Like it was just too much to deal with, in the heat, but I really enjoyed it. Like I had fun, like doing on the way there, we had a couple of different styles on the way down.
Yeah.
And I just let it get really long, but I'd never done that in my life before. It's like this or skinhead,
Yeah. Yeah, I played around with my hair. I've had my hair longer in my life more than short. So I had really long hair because that's what you want to do.
Oh yeah.
You know, you get a guitar, you join a death metal band, you need your long hair.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, youth is the time to do it, experiment and, see what your style is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you were like this growing up and not, but the more chances you get to explore those creative elements of yourself, I think you find more of who you are or aren't at the same time.
Mm-hmm. What you don't like.
Random subject to end on. Somebody wants to, if they're in Austin or they're traveling to Austin, how could they book an appointment with you? And how can they find this online so that way they can have it all planned out so they can get their cool tintype photo?
Instagram, Lumiere Tintype.
Okay.
And website, lumieretintype.com. They'll both take you to the scheduler and you can just book online.
Cool.
And yeah, super simple. You just pick a time, come on down. Takes 20 minutes. You'll actually see the photograph develop in that time, which is pretty magic. Watch it come out in the tray. And then takes about an hour. It's ready to go. It's a pretty painless experience, really.
And they should, after they get their photo, they should eat at Justine's.
Definitely eat at Justine's.
Okay. I'm just thinking like they could turn it into a whole photo and dinner experience.
Yeah, it's really fun if you're looking for a date night, if you're looking to impress somebody, a reservation at Justine's or walk in at Justine's at a reservation in the studio. Yeah, it's a killer combo.
I think it'd be a great first date night.
I see a lot of that. It's pretty special. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun.
And then I'm just curious now because now I'm just wondering about like if I were to book an appointment, I said, hey, I want to do an appointment. Could I tell you in that moment or make an appointment note, like we want to do 4 photos in that time, or is that 4 separate sessions? I'm just curious about that.
That's a good question.
I was thinking for date nights, like if somebody's dating, they're going to make a copy for them and the person on the date night with.
We'll often shoot 2, yeah, so that each person gets 1. Each appointment's good for 2 shots. Okay. So if you want 2, you just book 1 slot. If you want 3 or 4, you book 2 slots.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Awesome.
That just gives us a little more time. But yeah, we shoot all kinds of stuff. Babies, pets, old people, you name it. Bring them all down.
Bring them all down. Yeah. Everyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love to meet them.
Cool. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.